Good morning, Governor.
Good morning.
And thank you so very much for coming in.
Thank you, Bob, for having me. It's nice to be with you.
So let me ask you straightforward. Why are you out?
Well, we had a really deliberate process, with a lot of conversation, a lot of reflection and prayer. I was active in the midterms on weekends and nights consistent with my day job, and that was enriching and gave me lots of insights. And I addressed, I think, most of the questions that were on my mind about why and how and what the path would be. But I think, as Diane and I reflected on it, we realized that there's no way around the fact that the process is cruel. And though she and I were prepared for that, I think we realized that that was going to draw in and affect people we loved who were not necessarily prepared for that or not necessarily signed up for that. And, it's one thing to realize that you can't necessarily shield your family and loved ones from those cruelties. It's a whole other thing to realize that in a demanding campaign, you can't even comfort them. And I think a couple of things in the last month or so in particular really focused us on that, and we decided maybe this is just not our time.
What were those things?
Well, there was
you can talk about it.
Well, Diane had she's given me permission to talk about this, but she had a health scare in the last month. About 3.5 weeks ago, she was diagnosed with stage 1 uterine cancer. She had surgery right before Thanksgiving. She's going to be fine. But she's also going to be monitored regularly for the next 5 years. And as I say, her prognosis is excellent. And we thank God for that and thank her doctors at MGH for that. But it's the sort of thing that focuses the mind and really caused us to come to grips with some of the things that our children and our extended family were telling us about their pride in and excitement in our willingness to take this on, but their own personal reticence about being a part of it. And
can't escape the spotlight.
Yeah, well, it's one thing, as I say, for us to jump in, but the process can be cruel for the people you love, and we do love our family and all its extensions, and we have to pay attention to that.
Can I ask you what you mean by cruelty?
Oh, just the trivial or trivializing ways that in a competitive campaign people go after your family, go after your every family has its warts, has its issues, and so forth, has its things they'd rather keep private, and we do as well. Nothing that I'm ashamed of, nothing that I think our family members should be ashamed of. But there are things that I think some of our family members would rather. Private things that our family members would rather be kept private because they have nothing to do with the campaign.
I'm wondering how much of the campaign atmospherics that you're concerned about stem directly from the kind of campaign run in 2016 by Donald Trump when he mocked and disrespected his fellow Republicans during the primary process and then did the same to Hillary Clinton.
Well, it is true that if there were any rules, they're all gone now or seem to be. And I think one of the things that I was very keen to try to show is that we can, number one, that there are it turns out, some unwritten rules that our democracy depends on. One of them is decorum and respect and restraint, a fealty to truth and to fact. I think we showed, in particular during my first campaign here in Massachusetts and also during our second, that we could keep it positive. And still be competitive, and indeed not break faith with people who had come to our campaign and our cause because it was a positive campaign with an affirmative vision for the future. And I think we would have been able to show that nationally. Certainly, that was what we were committed to trying to do.
Well, you campaigned around the country this past summer and fall for Democrats running for various offices. Did they encourage you to run? How did that inform your decision?
Well, mostly that was about helping them, but I learned a ton. We had some 42 invitations, Bob, to come and help other candidates. And as I say, I was only able to commit weekends between Labor Day and Election Day. So I chose places that were, I chose on purpose places that were sort of off the sort of beaten path, meaning places where Democrats hadn't been competitive for a long time, and where the candidates had committed to campaigning at the grassroots, because as I think you know from conversations we've had over the years, how important I think it is for candidates to show up and listen and pay attention to people who have felt for a long time as if attention isn't paid. And what I discovered was these marvelous candidates, many of them first-time candidates in South and North Carolina, in Mississippi, in Texas, in Florida. There's a marvelous young woman, 31-year-old nurse in rural Illinois, African-American woman. She said, I think there was a 3% African-American population in her district. I said, I think you mean 3 African-Americans in your district. And she won, because she engaged with people. She talked about, she didn't run from being a Democrat or from being a progressive, but her point was not elect me because I'm a Democrat or because I'm a progressive. Her point was, I am your neighbor, and I am here as a servant leader, and I want to offer that servant leadership to this community. And overwhelmingly, the folks that we supported won.
So on the subject of candidates, what sort of candidate are you hoping now the Democratic Party finds to challenge President Trump? And will you stay neutral or will you back someone? Do you think you'll be ready to do that?
Well, a lot of questions there, Bob. I think, first of all, that our party has to offer a positive alternative, and in other words, more than just a perfected critique of the current administration, as angry as we have a right to be, as concerned, frankly, as we all ought to be about the state of the democracy. I think that what makes a difference is that we have a positive alternative agenda and a positive alternative vision to offer the American people. And I think you're seeing that more and more emerge from the very large and very, very talented field on the Democratic side. So
do you have someone specific in mind?
I have. There's a lot of talent, and frankly, it's always been a little bit of a wonder to me how you break through in such a large and talented field without being sensational or a celebrity, and I'm none of those things.
So you were a little concerned about that.
Sure, that was always going to be a challenge.
Did the fact that another prominent Democrat from this state, Senator Elizabeth Warren, seems likely to run for president, and maybe former Senator and Secretary of State John Kerry might jump in too, did that factor into your thinking?
No, both friends. I talked to Senator Warren yesterday. Both friends, both terrific public servants. It was going to be competitive anyhow, and I think that had I been in, at least my hope was that we would keep it positive and remember that friendship right through the contest.
I don't have to tell you that you have a lot of supporters listening to you right now who are going to be kind of crushed by this decision, hoping that you would run. What do you say to them?
Well, I say, we have lots of positive. First of all, thank you for that, and thank you for saying that, Bob. I've gotten incredible messages and words of encouragement from friends and strangers from all over the country over the last several months. It's been really quite mind-blowing, and but there is, as I say, a broad and deep field of Democrats, and I don't think we know yet the entire scope of that field, and I think that's a great thing. I think it's terrific that we're going to have a competitive primary, and I want that primary to be positive. I want it to be a contest of ideas, and I wanted to offer the very, very best of what our party is about. And I want it to be about seeing the unseen and hearing the unheard, because one of the things that I saw in the places where I was, and that affirms something I have believed for a long time, is that the country is full of people who feel that the political establishment and our political customs overlook them time after time, and that we are continually reducing people to a cartoon of some kind of voter demographic and not seeing them for the complex individuals they are, with the range of needs they have. And they're not looking to government to solve every problem in their lives. They're just looking to government to help them help themselves.
When you launched your first campaign for governor back in 2005, you began with an interview right here with us in the studio at WBUR.
And I was as nervous then as I am now.
I'm wondering if you're telling us this morning that this is the end of your career as an elected political official.
Well, who can predict? I mean, I think there are lots of ways to serve, Bob. You and I have talked about this both on the air and off. There are lots of ways to help, and I intend to be as helpful as I can in this cycle without being a candidate.
Might you consider a job in Washington with a future Democratic
Come on, don't start that. It was an idle comment on a radio program that started all the agita in this cycle. I'm not going to do that this time.
One last question. Are you at peace with your decision?
I am. And I'm having a ball with our impact investing business. It's been incredibly powerful, and if I can't in this cycle make change in government, I can make change in capitalism, and there's a lot of change there that needs to be made.
Former Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick, thank you so very much for joining us this morning to talk about your decision to not run in 2020. So appreciate your coming into the studio.
Thanks for having me.
Best of luck to you, and best of luck to your wife, Diane, as she continues her recovery.
And I appreciate that.
Please
Thank
tell her
you.
we said hello.
I will do.
Okay.